Okay, we hope that you all are enjoying the program, enjoying all of our honorees being recognized tonight, but please don't forget to continue to make those donations throughout the evening as I move to announce our next speaker tonight. Please welcome Ms. Rochelle Anthony from Delhaize Food Lion.
Good evening. My name is Rochelle Anthony, and I'm a Human Resources Representative for Food Lion. And on behalf of Food Lion's President, Meg Ham, and the more than 65,000 Food Lion employees, I bring you greetings. Diversity and inclusion is important to all aspects of our business, including workplace, marketplace, suppliers, and community. We believe a diverse workplace makes us a better company and is essential to the continued growth. Food Lion's support of the Post Best Foundation demonstrates our commitment to investing in the communities which we serve. Our tagline says it best: you can count on Food Lion every day, where shopping is easy, fresh, and affordable. Because of attorney James Ferguson's leadership and community engagement, the work of diversity and inclusion has a greater global audience. With that being said, I present to you Attorney James Ferguson, the Luminary Award for 2016.
We also have someone else who would like to say some remarks before we formally introduce you to our Luminary of the Year. Please welcome Mr. Jay Ferguson to the stage.
Good evening. I'm Jay Ferguson. I'm one of James Ferguson's 3 children. Or if you've known him a little bit longer, I'm one of Fergie's 3 children. Or if you've known him for a really long time, I'm one of Bobo's 3 children. And I'm really honored and humbled to have this opportunity tonight. So I'm really going to try hard to represent my brother and my sister. And there's another person that I'm also going to try to represent. Now, I saved her for last because she's the person that supported us in everything that we've done. She's the glue that holds our family together. That's my mama. That's my mother, Barbara Ferguson. And I saved her for last because I wanted to point out, and having been married almost 20 years myself, I can appreciate this better now than ever, that we had a chance to celebrate her and my father's 50th anniversary last month. So we were excited about that. That's giving me a little something to live up to. Gonna work hard at it. Even when you've been around a person all your life, you have to take a step back and think about them a little bit differently when somebody asks you to come up and introduce them to a very distinguished crowd like the one that you're a part of tonight. And so when I took that step back, thinking about my father and all the things he's done and who he is, a lot of different thoughts and ideas popped into my head. Courageous, consistent, committed. A man who gives you the comfort of knowing at all times where he stands. A man who you can count on to keep standing there, right there in that exact spot, even when the going gets really, really rough. So I was trying to boil all that down into one word. And it took a little while, but it finally came to me. And the word is timeless. Timeless. Try to come up with a word that would capture everything that he represents for me personally, for our family, and for our community, a word that really gets the point across. And timeless was that word. So what does it mean to be timeless? You think about it for a minute, and it might make you think about a fine wine or maybe your favorite movie that you loved when you were a teenager. For me, that's Eddie Murphy classic, Coming to America, by the way. Right? McDowell's versus McDonald's, and the Big Mac versus the Big Mac. If y'all don't know what I'm talking about, go online. Trust me, it's worth a download. Trust me when I say that. It is. But if you put yourself a little deeper, then you might come up with some more profound concepts, right? The principles that are incorporated into our Constitution, or some of the ideals behind some of the great movements over the last 200 or so years that have really pushed for us all to be able to enjoy those principles that are laid out in the Constitution. The Underground Railroad and the abolitionist movement. The push for the 19th Amendment, which gave women, or at least white women, the right to vote. What we now know as the civil rights movement of the 1940s, 50s, and 60s. The continuing and ongoing battle for equality around sexual orientation and gender identity. And last but definitely not least, that extension of the civil rights movement, Black Lives Matter. I was so glad to hear that the Post is continuing that and supporting that. That's so very important. Now, my daddy has fought for those ideals at least since he was a teenager in Asheville, North Carolina, working alongside my mama and many other young people and scaring my grandparents half to death, crusading in Asheville, North Carolina, to desegregate those shops and stores downtown. Now, I could have you here all night with stories about my daddy, and I would do it too. But Gerald and Melinda gave me a time limit, so I'm not going to have the opportunity to do that. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to stick with two real quickly. And one of them really demonstrates my daddy's commitment as a parent, and the other one demonstrates his commitment as a community leader. Now, I grew up around my daddy's office from before I could walk all the way up through the time when I had the great, and exciting thrill of practicing law with him for about 7 years, one of the great times of my life, and I really felt blessed to be able to do that. And so I can remember a time, and I do remember this. I was about 4 or 5 years old, and this was back when the office was over what we now know as the Bob Walton Plaza. And some people don't know this, but my daddy and many others were very involved in actually creating that building. That was actually an African-American created facility over there. So anyway, my dad's office on the 7th floor, and one day I was over there with him, and he was working, I'm sure, and I was trying real hard to distract him, running up and down the hall. And so when he got done, he got me, got ready to leave, and of course I was 4 or 5 years old, so I had to go to the bathroom, right, before he go. So took me in the bathroom. I went to the bathroom. When I got done, I'm 4 or 5 years old, so, I need a little help getting myself back together. Now, I got to get on a side note here real quickly. Those of y'all who know my daddy a long time know this. Many of you all don't. But my daddy used to smoke. He used to smoke a lot. And, he came up at a time before you had Surgeon General's warnings on packages and all that kind of thing. So he used to smoke cigarettes. He used to smoke a Alistair Cook type pipe. Back in those days, too. And so he had a cigarette in his hand, and he was helping me out, get my clothes together and everything else, and he burned me a little bit on my hand. And, I was real upset about it at the time, and I started crying or whatever. And he consoled me, and we kind of got everything together, and, we went on about it. And really, I'm 4 or 5 years old. I kind of forgot about it, and if I really needed to forgive him, I guess I forgave him. I don't know. But the thing that really stands out to me now as I talk to you tonight, within just a few months after that situation happened, my daddy quit smoking cold turkey. Never smoked again. And if any of you all have had to try to kick that habit, you know that that's serious. Now, that's commitment as a parent when you go through something like that and you say, you know what, I'm going to make a change. And he did it just like that. Had never seen him pick up a pipe. I missed the pipe a little bit. Or a cigarette since then. So that's commitment, and that's an example that my brother and I, we're both parents, have certainly tried to follow along with. Now, the other story that came to my mind when I was thinking about my daddy involved a gentleman named Darrell Hunt. And some of you all are familiar with Darrell Hunt. Some of you all may not be. But Darrell Hunt, as a teenager back in 1984, ended up wrongfully convicted for the rape and murder of a woman named Deborah Sykes, died very tragically in Winston-Salem, North Carolina. And basically, Darrell got railroaded. And so over the next few years, there were efforts to try to appeal that. A little bit later, in the late 1980s or right around 1990, my daddy got involved and really pushed to try to get his conviction overturned and then try to get him found not guilty. And when he first tried that, it didn't work. Not because of lack of effort, but it was a tough hill that they were trying to climb. So my dad stuck with it, along with others. And by the mid-1990s, the case against Darrell Hunt started to unravel. Now, it took over 10 more years, or right about 10 more years, for Darrell to actually be exonerated. And it took even longer than that for him to get what he deserved from the city of Winston-Salem. But throughout that whole 20-year ordeal, my dad was right there with him over all that time. Now, Darrell's not with us anymore. I never had a chance to meet Darrell. I had a chance to go and sit in court a few times when my daddy was working very hard on Darrell's behalf. But I got to imagine that Darrell, who passed away in March of this year, really felt good, and it had to have meant a lot to him to have somebody like that standing with him and standing by him and supporting him as he tried to get justice for himself. So that's another story, and that's one that has a little bit of a broader perspective, and both of those, I feel, really show what my dad's about. So, in closing, I wanted to share with you, as I went online the other day, and a lot of you all, like me, read the Charlotte Observer religiously. And some of y'all still read the old paper version. Some of y'all read it online, along with the Charlotte Post, of course, right? Okay. No, I had it. So you know, as I'm reading these periodicals, I'm seeing what's going on in the community with Keith Lamont Scott, obviously, and Justin Carr, who also tragically died during the protest, the uprising. And it was very interesting to me to see my daddy quoted again. After all these years, you still see him being quoted in these things. And so it kind of made me think of how when I was 4 or 5 years old, and then when I was a teenager, and as I tried to make myself into a young adult, and even now, I go to him when I got a question, I'm struggling with something, or I need something. Not really money anymore, although it could be. Never say never. So I go to him. I go to him for that timeless guidance, that timeless wisdom, that timeless direction. And when I looked and I saw that he was still being quoted after all these times out here battling and pushing to make things better, it made me realize that our community is doing the same thing. They're going to him for that timeless wisdom, for that timeless advice, that timeless guidance, that timeless direction. So he's done that for me personally. He's done that for my brother and my sister, and he's done that for us as a community. And I just want to say that I'm so proud to be here and to have this opportunity to introduce you. So proud of you. And congratulations. You deserve it. Thank
you. Ladies and gentlemen, please look at the screen to learn even more about Attorney James Ferguson.
When it comes to the matter of rights, it's more than just a principle of our Constitution, although it is an important principle embedded in our Constitution. But unless we have full recognition of the rights of every group that has been denied rights, then we are denying a segment of the population the opportunity to participate fully in the population. I was born in Asheville, North Carolina, into a family of 2 parents and 7 children. I was the youngest of the 7. In fact, I wasn't supposed to be here because after my mother had 5 children, she was advised by her doctor not to have any more because she had a high blood pressure issue. So I'm thankful every day that she didn't listen to the doctor. because if she had, I wouldn't be sitting here talking to you now. I don't know that law was so much a decision as it was a process. I grew up in the segregated South. Everything was segregated. And I think it was in junior high school, what they now call middle school, that I first started getting involved in addressing head-on the issue of racial segregation, which shaped everything I did. When I finished law school, I had already decided I was going to come back to the South and finish the job of trying to desegregate, bring about desegregation and equality in the South. And it was then that I met my partner-to-be, Julius Chambers, in New York one day when I went to the Legal Defense Fund to become a part of that program. And that's how I got into law, and that's how I got into Charlotte, was joining Chambers in his law firm, because I had planned to go to Asheville. The court order that had integrated and maintained an integrated school system here in Charlotte. Well, one case that I was fortunate to be a part of was a case that became known as the Wilmington 10 case. The Wilmington 10 case it has turned out to be one of the most important criminal cases in the history of North Carolina. The Wilmington 10 case was the case involving 9 young African Americans and 1 white woman who protested the manner of school desegregation in Wilmington because black children were not being treated equally to white children in their new environment. We fought it, and we eventually got that conviction overturned by the Fourth Circuit Court of Appeals. It took a long time to do that. They were convicted in 1972. We didn't get the convictions overturned until, I think it was 1981. The other case that I was fortunate to participate in was the Charlotte school case, which was handled primarily by my law partner, Julius Chambers, and he brought about the segregation of schools, not just in Charlotte, but established principles that affected all schools, school segregation cases in the nation. And I got involved in the second Swan case, I call it, when a white parent challenged the court order in North Carolina. That case went before a judge who had opposed the desegregation process from the beginning. So when that case came before Judge Potter in 1999, then he did what we could predict, and that is he found that the Charlotte school system was no longer a segregated system, and he lifted the court order. And just as we had predicted, within a very short time, a year or two, the Charlotte schools had gone from being the most desegregated school in the country to a almost completely new segregated system.
Fergie's impact on the region, the country, indeed many parts of the world, is really sort of subtle but easy to see. I think his legacy is as a person who has upheld, and I really mean this, the highest ideals of what it means to be a lawyer. To take the case, the client, no matter whether they're popular or not, and ensuring that the system works for everybody.
You said you don't ever put your idealism aside. I think that's true. You got to always have something to look forward to and something to do.
You know, he's a unique character, unique person, I should say. You know, he's generous, he's genuine, at times gregarious, and a very engaging person. So combine that with the advocacy, and you know, he is recognized as one of the best litigators in the world. And that is not some false accolade. It is well earned. He's a treat.
Final question. When the last chapter is written on you and your career, personally, professionally, how do you want that thing to read?
Oh, I hope it'll be real simple. I'd say that I wanted to read James Ferguson spent his life trying to help somebody and trying to make society a better place for everybody and not just a few.
Ladies and gentlemen, our luminary of the year, Attorney James Ferguson.
I told my wife I wasn't sure I wanted to come tonight, but now I'm glad I did. Jay, thank you. And I want you to know that you and Taj and Kaylee have made and continue to make me proud. When your mother and I met a little over 50 years ago, we were getting some benefits from the civil rights movement that a lot of people didn't get. There was a lot of struggle going on, even in Asheville, as high school students, when we both got involved. And as high school students, we were able to meet some success in desegregating the public facilities in Asheville. But all those who were struggling on the line and marching and picketing and sitting in and doing all the things that people do didn't get to meet the love of their life in the civil rights movement, as I did. And I'm just proud and happy that my wife of 50 years, Barbara T, as I call her, is still with me now, and we're still struggling for the rights that mean so much to us. I actually thought I'd made a mistake when I talked to Jay about introducing me, because he showed up with this beautiful woman tonight who was not his wife. I said, well, you know, at least he could have gone to a place where the whole city wasn't gathering. And that was this beautiful young girl wearing high heels and makeup that I really hadn't seen before. So when he introduced me to his date for the night, he revealed to me that this was my granddaughter and his daughter, because his mother was not able to come. So I do appreciate my family. And I have a wonderful family. I've always had a wonderful family. I grew up in a wonderful family, poor like yours, Tony, but rich in spirit, rich in love. And I had parents who believed in education, though they themselves found little formal education. But they helped me navigate life from early on. And as I am honored to get this honor tonight, this award tonight, I think about an award I got when I was in the first grade at a Catholic school in Asheville, and they gave an award for students, grades 1 through 8, and they gave an award for the smartest student in the school. And somehow or another, they made a mistake and gave it to me. My mother, recognizing that, you know, children can get a little carried away with things, and she was very proud that I had gotten the award. But she said to me, Jay told you they used to call me Bobo growing up. So she said, Bobo, my dad was right there with her, Bobo, I'm so glad you got that award. And I'm beaming. I'm in the first grade at the Catholic school. They kicked me out of the public school because I was too young, not because I was too bad. But she said, now I want you to remember something, son. She said, I want you to remember that even though you've gotten this award, and I'm proud of you, that you're still the same little nappy-head Bobo. And I've always remembered that. And she reminded me of all the people who had participated in my being able to get that award. So I've always remembered that. And I remember it tonight, as proud as I am of this award. When I go home and look in the mirror, I can't say you're still the same little nappy-head boy, because I don't have that much hair up there. But I can say you're still the same little Bobo as you were before you got it. I am fortunate that over time I have been able to mingle and benefit from and grow from people who have been high achievers themselves, who have been motivators. And I take inspiration from all those who are doing something for their community. I was highly motivated tonight to be sitting at the same table with the first runner-up and the top senior of the year. And I want to thank them for sharing their table with me. I have been fortunate to mix and mingle with people who have moved our community forward in many ways. I often think about how lucky I was that I met my friend and mentor, Julius Chambers, by accident. And by meeting him by accident and making the decision to join him in his practice in Charlotte rather than going to Asheville as I had planned, that was one of the most important and best decisions of my life. Soon after I got here, I met Harvey and Gant, and over the years, I've met many, many people. Just a few years ago, I stood right here in a much more comfortable position than I am tonight because I had the honor of introducing Charlie Danley, my great friend and one of your earlier luminaries. And somewhere along the line, I met another person who's become my lifelong friend and partner. And for just so you'll know, she warned me before I came up here, Fergie, keep it short. And that's Geraldine Sumter, my wonderful law partner, who's been with me for I don't even know how many years now, Geraldine, 25, 30 years or so. But just having the great fortune of meeting great, highly motivated people has meant the world to me. So I don't ever assume that I alone have made any difference. I've tried to join with others who made a difference and who continue to make a difference. Harold Cogdell, who's the same age as my son Jay, and I are working together right now to try to find ways to help my great friend Jennifer and others get through this crisis that we're going through in Charlotte. And I've been through enough crises in Charlotte and enough crises in the world and enough crises in my life to know that a crisis is simply a temporary passage that offers you some opportunity if you use it for that purpose. And as we go through what some view as a crisis right now here in Charlotte, I know, based on my experience and based on the wonderful people that I have met in my life and continue to meet every day here in Charlotte, that Charlotte right now is going through a temporary crisis from which we're going to emerge victorious. And as I said to Jennifer earlier tonight when we were chatting, Jennifer, what I want to see, and I know what you want to see, is for Charlotte not just to get beyond this crisis, but for Charlotte to serve as a model for the rest of the nation, as a model for police officers, as a model for mayors, as a model for people who are community-minded, to not only move beyond a challenge, but to use it as a transformative experience. And I'm convinced tonight that we will do that in Charlotte because of all of the wonderful people because of all the wonderful people as those gathered in this room and those dispersed around the city. So I take this award tonight as a challenge to continue to find a way to bring this community together, to continue to find a way to move forward together, to continue to find a way to make Charlotte the great community it can be, and to make Charlotte a model for the world so that not only Charlotte will be a great community, but all the world can come together, move forward together, and grow together, live together, and love together. Thank you for this honor.
Let's have a big round of applause for all of our honorees tonight.